did actually sing it for a second in the higher register, but it just sounded like AC/DC. I wanted to do, I was going to do this record with all guest singers. And when it came to Killing Floor, I thought, Brian Johnson doing his sort of low register kind of approach to this would be really cool. But it all worked out great. And he's just such a sweet guy. He was so much fun to go in the studio and do this with, really. Steven just came into the studio. He just came over to my studio one day for something else and just happened to put harmonica on it because he heard it and he loved it so much. He goes, "Yeah, let me get on that." And that was how that happened.
That's
Really
amazing.
spontaneous, yeah.
I love that, man. Well, and you mentioned it, but hearing Brian sing in that low register, and hearing him sing, in 2024 after all that he's gone through the last several years, it's pretty amazing, pretty monumental
Yeah,
to
and
have him on that.
he did actually sing it for a second in the higher register, but it just sounded like AC/DC, like it was. So I was like, no, keep it true to the original because he loved that song. It was a big part of his growing up.
Did you always envision Brian singing on Killing Floor?
Yeah, I mean, as soon as okay, it's a long story, but I had this band back in the late '90s called Slash's Blues Ball, and a couple of the guys, Ted Andreatis, who was actually a keyboard player in Guns N' Roses in the '90s as well. He's a real great blues singer, piano player, organ player. Anyway, so we did a lot of these songs back then, and I always wanted to record the band and do these songs, and I've just been so busy with a million other things in life that finally I got around to this place where I had a really small window between legs. I thought, I really want to make that fucking record.
Well, and I think you do a pretty amazing job too of respecting the original from Howlin' Wolf, right? Like you with the guitar part, you stay true to it. You obviously put your own
Right.
slash spin
Well,
on it, but
actually, the funny thing about that particular song is it's Killing Floor. It's also a riff that I lifted from one. Well, there's two riffs. There's the Killing Floor riff, and then there's a riff from one of his other songs that I lifted and put them together. So, because that riff is really cool and it's almost the same exact type of song. So I just put them together. I don't think some purists will recognize it, but I don't think it's really noticeable, but it makes it cooler. Man, some of these guys, have had such a really incredible impact on obviously rock music. But when you go back and you really check out those original tunes, the vibe and the groove and the soul and the fucking sort of pure spontaneity that comes out of those original songs is something that us rock guys have been trying to capture ever since. Man, that old stuff is just so fucking good.